Welcome to episode 52 of the Super Parent Syndrome with your host, Dr. Nick Fanning. Today's episode is Move from the X Spot. Sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode.
Parenting in the 21st century is ever evolving. And while you balance work, kids, and your sanity, it's easy to feel discouraged. Welcome to the Super Parent Syndrome with your host, Dr. Nick Fanning.
All right, parents. So here's the deal. I was driving today. I had some time to actually listen to a podcast because I have a 45-minute drive to my chiropractor because I was getting adjusted. Because I can tell you this, I've been working out just constantly and like every single day. And the thing is, I'm not doing huge workouts. I'm doing short workouts, half an hour or less, just getting my body moving, getting those small steps towards where I want to get. And one of the big things I'm going to be doing is a Spartan trifecta this year, and I'll talk more about that later on in the next podcast. But here's the thing, 45 minutes listening to a podcast called The Art of Charm. And I love this podcast. It's actually great for me because I love being able to communicate better with people, and that's their big thing. That's their big MO is how can you better communicate, how can you better teach, how can you better get points across so that way people can understand you better. And so I love kind of that science. So here's the thing. The guy that was doing it was interviewing this book writer. Her name is Michelle Rigby Assad. She is an ex-CIA intelligence officer. Now, the intelligence officers, they're the ones that are gathering information from informants in other parts of the world to make sure that there are no terrorist attacks on U.S. soil and that we keep our interests safe. The thing is just getting lots and lots of information from people, places, and things. She was going through and just very interestingly talking about how it was that she would win over informants, especially when she was being a small, young white woman, not dressed properly in Muslim garb. And here are these very masculine in a patriarchal type society where they were thinking who knows what they were thinking, but at the same time, she was at the disadvantage there. But she was talking about how she actually turned the tables on them to, one, see that she was intelligent, two, not an object to flirt with, but then three, gain their trust so that they could give their secrets to her in order to keep people safe. And she would talk a lot about motivation and what drives these people to actually help out. Because obviously you can see working with the CIA can, if you're on the other side, it's not the greatest prospect, but at the same time, we need this information. But here's the thing. She would talk about how they even had to go through training, training because, again, they were going to be in hostile areas, number one kidnapping capital of the world, things like that. And so she talked about, ambush training and training for defending herself. And the one big thing that they would talk about is that you need to move from the X or move away from X. And she would just, she constantly talked about X and I had to move from X. That's all I had to do. Because when you're in a dangerous situation or all of a sudden things are on the line, you respond in three different ways. One, you either freeze, okay? You either fight or you flight, okay? And the whole training was based on making sure that they trained you not to freeze, that you would do some sort of action other than freezing. And folks, the whole point of this podcast today is to make sure that you're not doing that as well. And yes, we're not faced with getting ambushed in different parts of the world. We're not worried about getting kidnapped as much as others. But the important thing that I'm trying to say is that we come across situations in our own lives and every single day where we could freeze. So, oh gosh, I need to talk to my boss about a raise. Or I feel I need to talk to my wife about this XYZ, or I'm not happy that she did this, or maybe I need to ask my kids to stand up to them to do this, or I need to, actually ask for sex. Little things like this can really add up. And so the thing is, instead of just freezing, moving. And that's really the whole purpose of this next year for this podcast, is not talking about us being perfect parents. That's impossible. In fact, if we focus on perfection, what's going to happen is that something is going to derail us, whether it's time or energy, or kids get sick, or we lose our temper. And then all of a sudden we'll just go into this area of just beating ourselves up and just really just tear us apart. And then all of a sudden we'll be like, all right, now I'm recommitting to perfection, and I'm going to do it all. I'm going to work out. I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and work out, and I'm going to only eat vegetables and, cut out all the chocolate candy and stuff like that. And I'm going to do everything perfect. And then that endless cycle over and over again, and not, really growing from that. So instead, what I'm saying is that we're going to move from the X spot this year. Okay. Small movements every single day. The whole point is that the old self is going to die every day, and tomorrow is going to be a brand new person. And that person is going to be a better version of the person yesterday. And your whole goal is to constantly moving that needle forward just a little bit. Nothing to be, entirely even stressed about. Saying today, like, I might be able to take, instead of, choosing pop, I'm going to have soda water. It can be little things like that can make such a big difference. So when I say move from the X box, it can be big steps, it can be small steps, but the big thing is move. And that could be the things that that you should be doing. So I encourage you, I have a call to action right now. I'm a lot more active on our Facebook page, where I love doing little Facebook Lives, where I'm going to have interviews with people, where I'm going to give documents or post pictures to inspire you and to drive you to action. I want you to go to a Facebook page and like it. Okay? We're going to get a lot more active, a lot more spicy there. And yeah, I might be doing this podcast, but at the same time, I'm only going to post once a week on this podcast, maybe twice a week at the very most. Majority of the stuff is going to be online, because that's the way the world is moving, is getting that constant content. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to give you so much crazy content. You're going to love it. And later this year, I'm probably going to have a call to action to actually do something, maybe some coaching or maybe some documents or something like that, or a book or some sort of workbook, something to kind of give value to your life. But right now, we're just going to focus on give. Okay. And I can tell you that this Facebook page that we have will always be free. Okay. That's my promise to you, as well as this podcast will always be free. Now, that does give you an obligation of doing one of two things. Otherwise, you're stuck in this karmic debt. Okay. You can't just, take and never give. So either share this episode, I'd love that, or give me an iTunes review, or at least do the stuff I recommend. Okay, one of 3 things needs to happen to give back, because that's with any relationship. And I don't want you being in karmic debt. I don't want you being a taker and not a giver. So please do that. And so that's the call to action. Go to the Facebook page, like it, because things are about to get spicy, folks. It's going to be one hell of a 2018, because I am tired of being the same person over and over again, and I don't want to be living the same year over and over again. I want 20 years versus 20 of the same year. I hope you're with me on this. So, parents, folks, move from the X spot. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Super Parent Syndrome. Please be sure to visit peptalksforparents.com for more content and our free newsletter. And remember, you are not alone.